Hello guys, today I'm going to take a look at this Ford 7810 and show you how you can take the model apart without doing too much damage to it, similar enough to the TW35 that I took apart before. So I'm showing you how to do this because this is another Universal Hobbies model and they are quite difficult to get apart without breaking anything. I've actually had this one apart a couple of times and I have actually broken a few things, but it's not too bad. The first thing we need to do is take off the rear axle. I think that was the same on the TW35. So that then exposes these two screws here. Well, actually it's four, there's two on this side and two on the other side. So we'll take them out and that should let us get the cab off. Now the cab will just slide off like that. Get that out of our way. The bonnet, you'll need to pry it up, so I've already pried mine so it comes off fairly simply, but you just need to get a screwdriver in and try not to scratch the paint, and you can pry that bonnet off there. That gets that out of the way. The steering wheel can pop off, just be careful you don't break it, it's quite delicate. So the little seat can pull off this kind of pedestal piece here, and the pedestal is glued down to the body of the cab really, so you need to pry that off. It'll be a little bit difficult. I've done this all before, so these parts are coming off easily for me. You'll have to be careful because you have to break the glue on the two little pins and stuff like that, so a lot of these things that are coming off easy for me, it didn't come off easy the first time, so you have to be careful, try and minimise how much you scratch it. That little thing just comes off there. That exposes a screw here, and we can take that off. So let that screw out. The pedals and all the controls are glued at the front here, so you'll have to pry that off as well. So that just comes up here, and just be careful not to damage that. That's another quite delicate piece. And then this little piece of the steering assembly here, once you get this off, we can get the cab out past this. So if we lift the cab up off its mounting points, that should slide away there. So see, there's a pin here and your screw point. I don't think you needed to pry this off. I think once you get that screw out, this part will come off pretty easily. So that's that off. And you can see I've had this off a couple of times and I've knocked a couple of these little bits off, so I'll just have to glue them back in place when it comes to reassembling the model. So that's not a big problem. So next we want to take this little mud flap off here. So we need a smaller screwdriver for that. That's that off. So that then gives us access to this screw. So we can take this one out. And another one here. And finally we need to take the lifting arms off. Take that out of our way. Now the model just falls apart. So you can see in here our steering is actually quite a complex little arrangement. Universal Hobbies have made a nice little steering mechanism here. It's pretty flimsy, but it only has to turn the steering wheel inside the cab really, so it doesn't really have to be very strong. The Seku ones are much stronger, but then again the Seku model has a lot more space to work with. So probably for us to try and steer this model, this mechanism, maybe you'd be able to use this end of it. The bit going up to the steering wheel wouldn't be much use, but there's so little space, it'd be kind of tricky to figure out where we'd put the steering servo anyway. Couldn't hide the steering servo under the bonnet because there's just no space there, so have to come up with something a little bit more inventive for that. The front weight, when the model comes apart, it just falls out because it's only sitting in these three little grooves here, and when you put the model together they just clamp that in place. So mounting one of these drive motors in this model is going to be pretty tricky. I'm probably going to mount it this direction, so with the motor in front of the rear wheels, which will mean I need to cut a section out of the body here, and the same on this side. But then we might be able to get the motor in there. If we get it in there, it might be reasonably hidden. It's still going to be visible no matter what we do, because the motor is huge. I mean, the motor is meant for a 930 model, so no matter what we do, it's going to be pretty obvious that there's a motor sitting here. Steering is going to be even worse. There's no space up the front here for a steering servo, and there's actually no space for electronics really. So what I might do is get something that I can put on the lifting arms, some sort of accessory, and maybe mount the steering servo and all the electronics in the accessory on the back of the tractor. Then I might be able to just run a connecting rod up to the steering and steer it from back here, but I've yet to decide how I'm going to do that. It's going to be pretty tricky. The Ford TW35 model is going to have similar enough challenges from hiding drive motors and servos, things like that, so I might be able to iron out some of the kinks in that design first, and then I'll be able to apply that, what I've learned, to this model somehow. But this model is a lot smaller, so it's going to be much more difficult. So that's all it takes to disassemble a Ford 7810 from Universal Hobbies. I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions about disassembling this model, or about how I'm going to make it into an RC tractor, although I don't really know how I'm going to do it yet, but if you have any questions, head over to the forum and ask them there, and I'll do my best to answer them if I can. And as always, if you like the video, make sure and give it a thumbs up. That helps a lot. And that's pretty much everything, so thanks very much for watching.